Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. How are we getting on? Welcome to a brand new camp build. So, we are working with a new prefab today, the Wild Mountain Waystation, which has arrived along with the Milepost Zero update. And the timing on this is pretty good from my perspective, because I had an idea for a build, kind of, that I wasn't really happy with how it was coming together. So I've kind of scrapped that idea and reworked it to focus on this new prefab, which is a bit of a reworking itself of an older one, but it's quite the major overhaul, and it's kind of fun. So, as you can see, we are down here in Skyline Valley at the moment. Here's my Blue Ridge outpost, and there's a trading post, Slingy Man Lookout. We're over on the right side there, and we're not too far from Skyline Drive, so passing Brahmin caravans, once that feature actually is enabled, should be passing right by, so should be good from that point of view. So, I'm going to turn the weather off a moment and get cracking. So I've got the prefab there. I've dropped it in between those two trees, which was easy enough to do. Just needed a little bit of tweaking to get it into the right spot. Went in okay. And we're going to move over to the sort of manual construction part. So there's a little dip in the ground here, sort of where those frames are going in. And I'm going to use these to put free floating walls because I want to build a Brahmin kind of pen with a little bit of a shelter to it. So I want sort of a bare earth floor to it. So I'm just going to figure out exactly where I want the back wall to be, which is about here. And we're going to snap these fortress walls, which are from the Cricket's Fort themed set that I have yet to use up till now. So we're going to snap those onto the railings there, onto the frame rather, and we're going to use it to form the back wall. So I'm converting those into doorways so that I can now take those frames off and voila, floating walls essentially. Or in this case, not floating so much as not on a foundation. So we'll test out some roofs. I'm going to stick with the grass ones, I think. They're alright. They go with the kind of organic vibe we're going for. And for this one, rather than just snapping stuff together in a conventional sense, I'm going to go with a bit of an odd angle and open it up a little bit here. So we're going to sort of freehand this frame in and repeat the procedure, but I'm going to use a different wall piece. Now my original idea here was to use the pavilion ones, as I thought they might make for a fun sort of different style to it, and I could then add bits on. But unfortunately, they don't come with a door or a piece that functions like one, so I'm not able to remove the frame. So I tried switching out for another wall piece that I could then remove the frame on, like this. However, we have a slight hiccup there that the pavilion pieces aren't here in the menu at all now. So I decided to go for the abandoned mine kit and mix things up there. Because it's got the kind of openness, kind of bare frame vibe, but in a different sort of a way. So close enough. So we're going to repeat the procedure over on this side here. We're kind of lining this up so that the leg of the frame is nice and close to the wall there, and there will be a little bit of overlap when we snap the wall onto the front. It's a bit too high there, so we'll dip it back down. There we go. The upper section of that hashed bit seems to be where the top of the wall sits. Looks about right. Cool. So we'll change it to a door again, so take the frame off. Now we change it back to the wall piece we want. Nice. So, let's get the roof back on there. That's the beginnings of a structure there. Should keep the weather off our Brahmin anyway. So we have one big problem here. Supporting the front of these roofs is a bit difficult because they are now not the right height to snap together with anything else, and also the side walls are not the right angle either. So we're going to have to improvise a little bit. So I've grabbed these Nuka World speaker posts, which, funny enough, come from Nuka World on tour somewhere. And I don't use them often because they play music, though I do have that turned off, so not a major issue for me. But they're the only thing that was tall enough to really do the job as a support, or an improvised one, so it's a bit of an old school Fallout 4-esque approach to coming up with a support, but it works. Had to use the flamethrower there to destroy their roofs, as the collision was a little bit finicky there, but it did work. So we'll flip that back around, oop, fall off the roof. And repeat on this side. We should have a decent bit of support then. Here we go. Smudge it over there. That was pretty close for a blind first effort. Yeah, a little tweak. That looks good. Repair that. And that more or less does the job. It's not perfect, but looks like the roof's sort of supported. So I'm going to extend out from this and begin putting walls around the edge, because I'm going to fence off this front area. Quite happy with how the end result came together. But we'll start with this big junk fence with lots of tyres on it. These things are, to be honest, kind of awkward most of the time, but they have quite a lot of character, so well, I do like using them. That will be my flamethrower randomly, spontaneously combusting for some unknown reason. I've no idea why that happened. I never randomly did that before, and it's not done it since either, so that was a bit weird. But if it was active, I would have understood it, but it wasn't. Anyway, we are now going to line that up so that it points towards the tree, and I've just had an idea here, so I'll come back to that idea in a moment. First, I'm going to finish closing up this gap here. Now, sometimes when you're trying to connect walls to trees like this, the collision just doesn't want to play nice and it can be a bit awkward. It sort of did that here, but also sort of didn't. You may notice we have the plank partitions back after the update as well, which is nice. Whatever the conflict was there, it's been resolved, which is good. I'm going to get this chain link fence in here just to plug up this nice little gap, because it's more or less the perfect size. Although the gaps in the wall here are characterful, but way too big for sort of my security liking. So I'll just grab the flamethrower, because that second chain link doesn't want to sit against the wall, apparently. And then we'll be able to just squeeze those a little bit closer together. Some persuasion required. What I'm actually going to do here is destroy all of these wall pieces, all three of them here, while we're on the subject. Because that idea I mentioned involves merging a chain link fence in and then having a window on the back, because I think that'll look kind of cool. To do that, I'll have to break the walls first, and they break in quite a convenient shape, actually, for that. They actually look quite cool. I might use them broken in a build at some point. Let's get the snapping off there and put this rusted chain link in. Nice. And now we're just going to line it up with where the window will be. This also works for other wall pieces as well, if you want to put chain link over the windows in those. Not all of them, but some of them are quite a good fit. The abandoned mindset, actually, is a good example. So we'll change that back out. Now we've repaired it. And look at that. And this one as well. We've got windows with chain link in them now. That looks alright. Bit different. So, this is starting to come together now. Let's just add a little bit of chain link here just to finish off this little gap, because it's a bit too much space for my liking on this side as well. Looks a little better on the outside in the end. And I kept playing around with this, and in the end what I came up with was something that I completely did not expect to work. That worked okay, but still not quite as close to the trunk of the tree as I would like. So I tried flipping it around. I assumed this wasn't going to work, but would you look at that, it worked just fine. Which is just a testament to it'll never work 50 times when you try it, but the 51st, it'll just drop in right where you want it to. So, yeah. That's life, I suppose, but testament to always try it even if you don't think it'll work, just in case. So, with the back wall and the roof on there, let's put a little front fence around this thing. So, I really wanted to use the Helvetia fences for this. So, we've got this two double-length, slightly curved piece. Now, these are a little bit awkward sometimes with the collision, so it's a bit annoying. But I was kind of insistent that I wanted to use it, because they've got a good kind of country, kind of Brahmin pen vibe to them, even more than the barbed wire does. The barbed wire fits in that gap quite nicely. So, if we adjust this a little bit here, should be able to close this gap up quite nicely. Yeah, looks alright. Nothing's floating and it connects to the post. That'll do. So let's grab another Helvetian fence and make sure we've got the right one. Nope, that one. And we should just be able to drop this up against the wall here, leaving a nice little gap here that we can close off with a gate. And this actually went surprisingly smoothly, to be honest. Just eyeballed it to exactly the right size. So we're going to drop the barbed wire gate in here. Come on. There we go. Awkward bit of ground. But we're close. It's just on a little bit of an off-kilter there. A little bit further, and we'll come around the end and see what we're doing. Nice. So, yeah, always worth changing your angle of viewing, because sometimes the game figures stuff out better that way. Yeah, there we go. One little Brahmin pen. So, I've got an absolute ton of decoration still to do, but I want to show you a little bit of the walls at least first. It's a little refresher on approaching junk walls. But obviously, I've done this many, many times before, and in varying ways, so plenty of opportunities to check out how I approach junk walls if you would like to elsewhere, without this video getting to be an hour long. But I'm going to drop this fortress gate in, which is from that new Pricket set from a few weeks back that actually caused issues with the plank partitions. And I've put this gateway in the wrong way round, which was a bit of an oversight. But on the plus side, it now means the door will open inwards when I put it on there. So, happy accident, I guess. But yeah, I'm quite happy with that. We'll sort of tweak it a little bit. We've got a bit of floating going on at the left-hand end there. Going to work with the tree again, and apparently it's happy to kind of sit up against the tree as well. So, it's playing nice today, which is always a win. I'm going to drop a guard post in here because once the caravans start coming past, there will be all manner of critters. And in fact, there are all manner of critters anyway, moving past the front of the camp. That's Skyline Valley for you. There are a lot of enemy spawns here. So we'll tweak those angles a little bit, make sure we can close this gap up. Speaking of plank partitions a moment ago, let's use that one. Should fit nicely in there. Nice mixture of wood and chain link works quite well, and it keeps the vibe, but also mixes things up a bit at the same time. So I think it's a decent choice here. And this just kind of slots quite nicely against the two other pieces there, so quite happy with that particular choice. Nice. So we can jump over to the other side. I'm going to use the pit scaffold corner here just to create a guard post. Just to mix things up, we'll do it a little bit differently. Again, we'll nudge it up against the tree. Give us a bit more of a coverage on the front side here. Looks alright. We can close up that little gap in a bit. Grab the ramp here. It won't snap onto the side apparently. And needs to be a little bit higher to make it snap onto the front. There we go. We did give it another go on the side, but no joy. Too close to the tree and the wall, I think. Still, that'll do the job. We'll have to close up the edge a little bit, but that shouldn't be too much of a problem. Grab a couple of chain links, because these things are ridiculously versatile. Nudge it up against the tree in the front of the guard post, or what will become a guard post. Flip that round. I could have used one of the larger pieces, but it's just a bit too big, so hence the overlap here. And there we go. Looks alright. Nice and secure. So, I'm going to add a couple more bits and pieces here. And then I will head off and do an awfully large amount of decoration, both inside and outside of the camp. Add a few little bits of extra detail on the walls, as well as actually an extra prefab on the inside, and a ton of workbenches and extra details. But you've got the general gist, and most other things from here are just placement. So we'll get that fence in. Make sure the line looks about right. It's going to curve towards that tree bit by bit. And I will head off and see you in the tour in just a moment. And here we go, some hours later. I'm quite pleased with how this came out. The red colour is quite... either you like it or you don't, I think. It's very much a Marmite thing, but that's the Skyline Valley vibe. We are towards the middle here. But it's quite striking, I think is a good word for that. I'm quite happy with how this has come out. Given how dangerous an area it is, the fortifications did seem very much necessary. Grabbed a couple of pieces there, particularly that spiked barricade, off of the current season scoreboard, season 18. And a little bit of flamethrower work means it'll sit pretty close to many wall pieces. Not all of them, but quite a lot. I did a whole bunch of extra details and bits and pieces. And put some arrows on there, just in case people find themselves wondering where the front gate is. It's always helpful. I do quite like these little road signs we've got now. The more the merrier on that front for little details. Got a few extra barricades, a few other bits and pieces around there. I didn't add too much to the back of the Brahmin pen because it's kind of one of the set pieces of the build, so I didn't want to kind of bury it under stuff. Bit of a weird lighting flicker there. There we go. And possibly a good thing for my build budget, which I still have a tiny little bit of room left on, incidentally, is that there's no shrubbery really around this section. It's all been killed off by the storm, so that means it didn't have to add too much more. I added a few brambles, but not a lot. And it just means I've got a bit more decoration. It does leave the thing a little lonely out in the middle of nowhere, but it works okay. I've got a few extra bits and pieces on the outside, like the shelter entrance there, just because I really didn't have room for it inside. But it's there more of a in case I need it for gameplay rather than for a feature of the build. So here we go, coming back around. It looks like my ally has decided that she wanted the gate open again, in helpful style as always. Well, let's head on in. Seems to be, hopefully, should be getting a decent amount of passing traffic. I thought a load of bright neon signs on the front would be a good idea. Let's close this gate up. I'm quite happy with this little entrance here. I used the flamethrower to destroy the 2 chain link fences and then just put the guard posts into the ghost, basically. And it worked quite nicely to fortify it. Protects against sort of melee attacks. What gives that vibe. And there we go. Prefab standing tall and proud there on the right. And I dropped the little caravan there on the left as well. And it makes for a nice little vendor spot. We'll come to that in a minute. So my guard post has got a few extra details. Some dead brambles and my field dressing station, which is pretty much a must. As well as some other clutter around here as well. I did initially use the version of this camper without the awning on it, but I just felt it looked a little bit more complete with it. Just give it that bit more of a finished vibe. I didn't want to put too much stuff outside like I did in the last build, which I was quite happy with, still enjoying hanging out there, but I wanted to take it a bit of a different direction. So we've got a whole bunch of stuff that may or may not be on sale, and some things to do while you wait for the vendor. Play with the pinball machine and stuff. And technically 2 vendors there, but kind of works, I think. The big guy's not entirely Blue Ridge themed, he's a bit more Red Rocket, but hey, it works. There is our Brahmin pen, and you can see the pack Brahmin at the back there is the current Fallout First reward for the month of September. And yeah, he doesn't do much, just stands there and stares. So I made him stand, or her rather, stand and stare at the feed trough, because that makes a bit more sense. That's on the current scoreboard as well. And I tucked the bathtub in the back. I figure that's got water in it for him to drink as well. And yeah, quite happy with that. There's our 2 improvised posts, and they more or less work. As I say, I've got the music turned off anyway, so no problem there for me. Tuck the bog in the corner there, along with the Collectron as well, because gotta have him. And I do quite like this. The Wildwood Den that this prefab is originally based on and then sort of reworked from is quite a good prefab on its own, but attaching all of the extra bits on it makes it quite large, but I do quite like the style. Getting railings on this ramp up here was a bit awkward though. Obviously it wasn't going to happen on the sloped part, but I managed to close off the level parts of it and we'll come up to the top. Those little shelves on the top that you can't really use on the other prefab are quite handy here. Got to manage to squeeze my scrap box and my ammo box up there. They're a little bit large really for being on there, but it was a bit of a different approach, so quite happy with that. Whole load of clutter and scrap just for breaking down for making components for weapons and the like. Oh, that's the idea. And my workbench is squeezed in. I know I mentioned the other day that I don't like burning things on wooden floors, but sometimes you got to do what you got to do. With the armor bench there. We were playing Stalker at the time actually, which has been good fun. We'll swing around this side and have a little gander at my chemistry and brewing setup. The brewing stuff actually took a while to figure out what I wanted to do with. I tried it in a few different places and ended up settling on putting it in here. And I think it's okay. A bit unfortunate floating with that mason jar there, or jug or whatever it is, that really wasn't floating when I last checked it. What can you do? And tuck my power armor station in the corner as well. I've not overdone it with bits and pieces on this. I could probably put a bit more decoration in hindsight, but I was not quite sure how I do for budget. So not a lot left, but there is a bit. Yeah, I quite like this prefab. You could have to take it in a completely different direction if you wanted to make it a place to sort of relax and squeeze a bar up here or something if you wanted to. Decent view out the back there, such as it is. A bit dead, but still. And there we go. Decided at the last minute to put a little campfire in the middle because we had a big open space with nothing going on, and I thought, well, why not? So sit around and campfire songs and drinks and stuff of an evening when the caravan hands stop by. Heading on inside, we have my little player home. I decided to make this space, and the curved walls do make this a little bit difficult to decorate sometimes, but all in all, I'm quite pleased with how it's come together. It's not quite get across the threshold into coziness, I don't think, but it works. There's a reasonable amount of detail, particularly around the kitchen over there. That roasted thrasher is ridiculously large, but then again, so are the thrashers, so that kind of makes sense, really, doesn't it? And as you can see, I've got a few little bits and pieces scattered around the kitchen there, and Yasmin's tucked in the back. I went for the white set this time, just for a change, really. And a few bits of details around the little lounge area there as well, and yeah, I think it looks okay in here. Close to cozy, anyway. So one thing you may have noticed in our little wander around this place is that the centre of the camp here is very, very brightly illuminated. And there's no magic going on in here. It's just the pit floodlights that you can pick up from Giuseppe in the White Spring. You can see it on the tree there. Well, it's just up above the gate. A tiny little 6-point light up there is what is bathing the whole central area here in daylight. It's quite effective, really. It's impressively bright. Very situationally useful, but for this one, definitely helpful. It means I can have both the weather and see what I'm doing as well to win. But there we go. One Blue Ridge Caravan trading post, not too far from Skyline Drive, down in Skyline Valley, with a whole bunch of new bits and pieces in it, which I'm quite happy with. Reasonably pleased with this, I think. So, yeah. Hope you folks enjoyed. If you did, please do consider dropping subs and likes. I very much appreciate. Down below, we've got social media links and channel memberships as well. If you want to support the channel that way, I very, very much appreciate it. Do check out all those buttons, notification bell, all that good stuff. And if you get a chance to join us for live streams as well, we're playing, of course, Fallout 76. Played a little Fallout London at the minute as well, which has been good fun. And we're checking out the Stalker games too, which has been really cool. So I do hope you join us. But for now, thank you very much for watching. I look forward to speaking to you all very, very soon.